Welcome to episode 2 of the Discipline Over Motivation podcast. Right here, I have my good friend Rachel Clark. This is going to be our first ever dual podcast for Discipline Over Motivation. And it's such an honor to have Rachel Clark, the king of the women's side of the fitness industry. She's done great things. I'm excited to go into her whole journey, how we were able to connect throughout the last year and a half now, nearly, and just go over our whole story and talk about a collaboration clothing drop that we have coming up soon. So, Rachel, nice to meet you. And for everybody watching that doesn't know you, could you give a bit of, who you are, where you're stationed right now, all that good stuff?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be your first guest on
Yeah.
this podcast. Such an honor. Goodness, where do I begin? My name is Rachel Clark. I own EMBR Coaching. I have not always been a nutrition coach, like into fitness. I actually started my journey in 2016 where and we'll get deeper into this later in the podcast, but I struggled with binge eating, binge drinking. I was over 200 pounds. I did not have the mindset or the mentality or the resources or the support that I now have, like obviously 10 years later. It's definitely been a journey. I was able to lose 85 pounds and keep it off permanently. And, with my experience and with my passion of the health and wellness industry, I was able to leave my career as an optician, and which I went to school for. I did for 7 years before I became an online coach. And then in March of 2022, I stepped into this space. And since then, I have been able to serve over 900 clients and hire 3 coaches at EMBR. And we're coming up on 1 year of EMBR. So yeah, that's kind of who I am, what I do.
That's awesome. So to, touch back on that for a second, August 25th, that's going to be 1 year of Ember coaching. So not too long ago, you hit me up, was like, hey, we need some more merch. And then I was like, okay, cool. Do you happen to have any dates that you're wanting to drop this? And you had let me know, well, a significant date coming up is August 25th, the anniversary, 1 year anniversary of Ember, which is crazy that it's already been a year. But at the same time, I said it feels like it's been several years now because of how much you've done and how many posts I've seen with all your, success stories, testimonials, and people that, clients that you have and lives that you're changing. And then it hit me when we had this conversation that August 25th is the 2-year anniversary of Discipline Over Motivation. And because we've done now, this is going to be our 4th project together, that is, for a company that's only had, 12, 15 clothing drops over the last 2 years, like your Ember is such a huge part of Discipline Over Motivation. And some of my favorite projects I've ever done within this company is in collaboration with you, because you have such an incredible audience, and, we call it the Coach Rachel Army behind you, right? And just, also just us being like 2 very similar and aligned individuals. We want more out of life. We are each in love with fitness. We like to be the weird people that stay on plan in a room where nobody else is. You know what I mean? This t-shirt right here, fuck the mood, follow the plan. You know what I mean? Like when I had, way back when we met, saw that was your mantra. I was like, damn, this girl gets it. Like, what other women are talking like this, let alone actually doing it? You're different because you can tell through your social life you're actually doing it, whereas most people, it's like you can see that it's, that it's fake, right? So I wanted to go back a bit and just let everybody know like kind of how we met, because this is like such an awesome and significant story. So we had a mutual friend in the area when you guys used to live in Florida, and she had noticed the nose strip that Matt, your husband, was wearing. And then that mutual friend of ours says, hey, I know a guy that works for that company talking about me. So then we were, connected, and I had met Matt just, through social media and all that good stuff. And, he's a bodybuilder. He loved wearing intake breathing, the nose strip. And, he was just always like super cool and nice and supportive of everything I had going on at the time. And, it's important to mention in the story, at the time, he didn't have much going on. He was just a football coach and kind of hated his life and all that good stuff. And when, Matt and I met, it was strictly about intake and creating content. And I kind of basically went against my job and threw a bone at like a very small creator at a time, said, hey bro, here's how you can go viral and make a lot of money with this company. And I was just, doing a little bit of business for fun and trying to help somebody out. And it didn't take, but I think it was maybe 2 weeks, and then Matt finally posted a 6 million view video for intake, and then all of a sudden it was like, whoa, you realize like he can do this, you know what I mean? Because he was doing crazy results and creating amazing content with no background in it, and just strictly just wanted to get good at something and figure out a way to escape his current situation. And he did that. So through me becoming friends with Matthew, I obviously eventually then crossed paths with you. I followed you on Instagram and saw how deep you were into the fitness coaching space and all that good stuff, and just killing it. And I remember telling Matt, or maybe I saw him one day. I was like, dude, she's legit, bro. She makes me feel like I need to work harder, And I, at this point, I haven't even met you. And then something changed where all of a sudden one day I'd seen a social media post, and it seemed like something pretty tragic had happened, and you had lost your job. And that was like crazy because I had not known you long, and I could tell as just a random Instagram follower of yours that like it was a big deal. It wasn't just like a getting laid off situation. It was a total, like, you didn't know what you were going to do next. It was clearly very hard. It seemed like there could have been like some drama behind it. And, I reached out to Rachel, and, because you could, nobody wants to lose their job, right? People think about, the bills they have coming up and all their current responsibilities. And because it was noticeable that it was such a sudden thing, I'm thinking like, I'm good friends with Matt, and now that means I'm good friends with Rachel by default. So I said, how can I help? I have this clothing brand, and the whole reason I, want to be an entrepreneur and make good money is for situations like this, to be able to help people out and make, be a difference maker in the world. So I had come to you and said, hey, let's get you involved with discipline over motivation as an athlete. I think we were already, for the record, having that talk by the time this happened, if I remember correctly, because I know Matt already was basically an athlete with us by then. And yeah. I said, hey, look.
We did the photo shoot 2 days before or a day before that I got.
Did we? Okay. Yes. Yeah. No, you're right, actually. Yeah. So then I said, well, you know what? The only way I feel I could help right now is by, something monetary, right? Like you use your job. Like I didn't need to send you flowers or a box of chocolates, you know what I mean, as a friend, right? How do we make some money together? How do we, while doing what we do? And I said, you know what? Let's make a crazy hyped up announcement. Rachel Clark is joining Discipline Over Motivation. And then we came up with I'll never forget, I was sitting in this office, I texted Matt, I said, hey, let's do something called like the Coach Rachel sale. You know what I mean? And then that just like literally took down the internet for like a week as we were preparing for this, and sold out of damn near everything we had. We had never seen any traction like that. We did, it was, nearly a 5-figure day. And for a small clothing brand, like that was insane.
Yeah. I mean, the support that you gave me and that my clients and my friends and my community that I've built for the past 10 years gave to me in that situation was just like, it was incredible. And it just goes to show when you have women that fully believe in you, that are standing beside you and behind you, like you're capable of anything. And also, I know we're going to get into this, but I remember you said that you were so amazed that somebody with only 8,000 followers had such a strong community of people that would just like go to bat for you and like die for you, basically. Yeah, my only 8,000 followers, to me, that's a lot of people. If I got 8,000 people in a room, hello. But no, we have this ongoing joke of like my only 8K followers. And now me and Matthew talk about it all the time too. I'm like, I hit 9,000.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with your following, is like you have 8,000 followers, which I remember when we were going over this whole like athlete deal and doing a wholesale and, drop around you, it's like, oh, like this was kind of risky. But I noticed your engagement was really good. Like if you have 100 people tagging you in a story of what they're eating or how their workout was every single day, that's a pretty dang engaged community. You know what I mean? That might not be, don't get me wrong, right? 8,000 people is a lot of people, but most of your online fitness coaches that are doing well have hundreds of thousands, if not millions. So when you look at you just from, judging a book by its cover, it's like there's probably not a lot of volume behind you as an individual in terms of social media. And then, I remember seeing the support from your community instantly from your situation. I was like, wow, like there's a lot of people here that care. We need to, do what we're supposed to do when something like this happens. Something tragic happened for you. You have a community of people that love you and support you. Okay, let's see if they'll show up. And they freaking did. And it was just the most incredible. Like, even thinking back, I'm like, that was like so insane. I remember being on cloud nine for days watching that. And you told me, you said, I don't know, I got a lot of people. You specifically said, I got a lot of people that'll ride or die for me. I'm like, wow, this sounds like something like out of a movie. Like, okay, let's send it. You know what I mean? And I mean, our expectations were both blown that day, and for what, ended up carrying out and is still, a thing obviously until this day. So yeah, the difference is you have 8,000 followers that is, all 8,000 people are 100% there for you. Like, you could probably you've probably had a conversation with every one of those 8,000 people over the years, you know what I mean? Whereas the people with, 100,000 followers or a million, those people still don't have the 8,000 that you have. They might have 100 or 200 or 1,000, you know what I mean? Like, you have the most quality in your following, in your audience, in your circle, in your support that I've ever witnessed in my whole life. And I have been in the social media game for 10 years now myself. So it's totally insane. But I want to go back to the reason for all this, the reason that we connected on this level, right? Like, you had a situation that, kind of put you in a place of like, I don't know what I'm going to do next. And it was like very sink or swim. And I really want to hear, and the people want to hear, like, your perspective on that, and you can go into as much or little detail as you want. But like, what was that? Because I couldn't imagine, I have, a couple different businesses and a couple different full-time jobs that I work at one time. I could not imagine getting that call from somebody I work for and have put some, a company I've put years into, and getting the call and just being like, okay, like, that's it. Like, what do I do now? I couldn't imagine that. And, I'm sure people are wondering from your perspective, what really happened.
Yeah, so goodness. We can dive in. We can dive into this. So, a little backstory, right? I started my fitness journey and I decided to go all in on myself in 2016, August 2016, something about August. I did it by myself for about 2 years, just like working out, eating healthy, watching other, influencers or people on YouTube, like, how do you work out? Like, I'm on the treadmill, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm on the treadmill. I'm on YouTube, like, watching people do a shoulder workout or just like learning how to squat. And then I would go and do it and, like, watch other people in the gym or whatever. So I was eager to just figure it out because I was so sick and tired of my situation that I had put myself in I was 21. I was drinking multiple nights a week. I was eating like an asshole. Can I cuss on this?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted more than anything to get out of the situation that I put myself in. So for 2 years, I just took relentless, messy action. And that, like, last year of the two, I just stayed stagnant. Like, I just stayed, nothing was really happening, but I was literally going to the gym like 5 to 6 times a week for like 2 or 3 hours. Most of those hours were just like me on the treadmill, like researching, like, what am I doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like just doing excessive cardio and like just random things in the gym. And then this was kind of when social media coaches were like kind of popping off. Like back in 2016, I don't recall seeing a lot of online coaches. I don't recall like it being obviously as big as it is right now and like having so many options to like work with so many, different style of coaches. So I kind of just latched on to one of the first coaching companies that I saw. And there wasn't a lot of women that were my age in it. But I was like, well, I need this service. I need some support. Obviously, all of these other women, if they can do it, I can do it. Right. So I hired my first coach. It was the end of 2018, early 2019. I didn't really take it very seriously. Like, I just like bought a plan and then I didn't do anything with it for like 5 or 6 months, and I was still stagnant. I'm like, I guess I have to actually put in effort and actually show up to the check-ins and actually follow the plan and actually do the thing and not just buy it and put it in my junk drawer to actually see the results. So then I picked it up and I felt the plan was so restrictive because it was just like one option for breakfast. You can eat chicken, rice, and broccoli for lunch, a yogurt, protein bar. And I was like, as a recovering big back, as a recovering foodie, I'm still a foodie, not recovering. I'm a recovering big back as always. But
Me too. Me too.
yeah, I need more like options than that, baby girl. So I was like, there's gotta be a way that I can figure out how to like create meals that I'm actually excited for and that I actually enjoy without just following this. Like, I wasn't the type of person that was okay at the time with eating the same thing every single day with the bland, no options. I'm like, I also like turkey. I also like green beans. Like, can I, So then I did a deep dive into, okay, well, what's a macro? Like, how do I count macros? And then I figured out how to do that on my own. And then I started writing like my own meal plans. I followed the numbers that my coach was giving me, but I was like experimenting with, I never got into like if it fits your macros and just like putting a bunch of bullshit into my food. Like, I was just like keeping it simple, single ingredient whole foods most of the time. But like, how can I just have different options every day? I want to like have something different every day. So that worked for me. I took that and I ran with it. And then fast forward, I was working with a coach one-on-one with the company that we're going to get into. I was working with her for like 5 years. Was it 5 years? 4 or 5 years. Anyway, so I lost 65 pounds doing that. And I was able to keep it off because not only was my coach at the time supportive of like my macros, but this was a behavioral program. And coming from the place where I was, where I mean, when I was overweight, I was so mean to myself. I had just like this nasty, like, self-deprecating humor and like just like this nasty, mean mindset of just shitting on myself. I would make fat jokes in front of people to just get ahead of what they
Make
yeah.
ease the
It's just
pain.
like, oh, I know you're seeing that I'm fat. Like, let me just acknowledge it first. So like, it was just like just shit like that. Like, it was not good. So having a coach and being in a program where not only we focused on changing your body, but we focused on having that accountability, from somebody who was outside of you, right? And I found so much value in that, and I found so much value in just showing up and me paying to pay attention because at the time, like, I wasn't making a lot of money, and I put coaching on a credit card, and I was like, okay, like, I'm going to change my life no matter what. I'm going to do whatever I possibly can to get the support that I need because obviously this is the only way that I'm actually going to do it. So, anyways, going into the behavioral program, it's like it wasn't just like here's a meal plan or here's macros. Like, it was more of asking yourself the hard questions of like, well, why is that a trigger for me? Why do I use food to self-soothe? Why am I like what exactly am I trying to avoid? And I'd never asked myself those things before. And I was like, oh,
That's a good one. I'm excited
yeah.
to hear your answer.
Yeah. So it's like when you're able to get so deep with yourself and like understand why you are the way that you are and understanding that you can take back control and that it's usually not about the food. It's not about the alcohol. It's not about the sweet treats. It's not about the temptations. It's about how you feel about yourself and knowing that you can take back that power and take back that control and that you are the creator of your reality. And when I like kind of just understood that aspect that I am not my thoughts, I'm not my behaviors, I'm not my patterns, I'm not my habits. I can detach and unidentify with those things that were keeping me stuck for so long and I can just choose different.
Right.
Now this has been a practice for many, many, many years and I say practice because it's like you don't just learn it once and then you're you're good, right? I still have the struggles where I want to use food to self-soothe. I want to, eat a bunch of cookies or have maybe one too many espresso martinis, right? It's like we know that those things are not going to actually make us feel better, but as a human being, like you're going to have those thoughts and you're going to have those situations. But anyways, so many people, they start their fitness journey and they don't do the behavioral habit pattern mindset work and they don't acknowledge that part of it. That's why many people do diets and get success with like keto or GLP-1 or, whatever quick fix it is by just slashing a bunch of calories and maybe just like locking yourself in a room and like not going out for an extended period of time. It's like how you can lose weight that way, but like how can you maintain that and manage it for the rest of your life?
Implement it into your lifestyle. I totally
Yeah,
hear
like
you there.
exactly. Exactly.
I actually have a similar background when I started my weight loss journey. So just so you guys know, how heavy were you at your heaviest? I'll pop some pictures up in here in the podcast, but you have some of the craziest transformation pictures I've ever seen. What was your heaviest weight and how old were you?
Um, I, I got to 205 pounds. I am 5'2". I got up to a size 20 for reference. I am now 124 to 127 pounds. My lowest in, bodybuilding was like 121. So like I've lost like full like 85 from my heaviest to my smallest. And I wear like size like
That's insane.
2 right now. Yeah. So
That's funny
yeah.
enough. Another thing we have in common is at my heaviest as well. I'm a 5'7" male, and I got to 205 pounds myself. Was actually my peak weight, and I had grown up kind of like that skinny fat. Could be lean if I wanted to, but I loved zebra cakes and Chick-fil-A too much growing up. So I totally hear you there. And then I went to college and the freshman 30 for me was actually, or freshman 15 actually was a freshman 35 or something like that for me.
Yeah.
And because then I could buy my own food. It wasn't just eating whatever my parents bought.
Yeah.
And I was eating tubs of cookie dough that I was, not even able to afford when I was in college. And that was like basically a meal every day for me, edible cookie dough, right? But I did the same thing when I started my fitness journey personally. It was after, COVID. I was going to drop out of college and then COVID happened and we got sent home. I said, okay, cool. I'm already being sent home. I'm not going to go back. So I just dropped out there. I don't even remember enrolling. I just never showed up again, never looked at another email. I hated school. I realized the college thing wasn't for me. I was in my first year of college paying however many thousands of dollars a semester, having to learn about Beethoven still. They made you do in fourth grade. Now you're 19 years old and they're making you do it again. Yeah, get out of here. That's when I realized it wasn't for me anymore. And I was so depressed. I was the heaviest I had ever been as well. And then, TikTok became a thing. And then fitness influencers became a thing. And from there is when I got inspired. I was like, you know what? I'm too fat right now, for one, but I feel now I'm seeing all these people all over the world that aren't models, actresses, athletes that have apps. And I remember thinking same thing as you. Well, if these people can do it, I was 18 years old and already had a successful business of several years at the time. I can do it too. I grew up playing baseball my whole life. I'm not unaware to being athletic. I just never cared to try to, I guess, look good now. It's different from being an athlete, growing up. And throughout the rise of, fitness on social media, I had then as well clung on to, I actually got a recommendation from somebody here at my local gym to look into Fit Body Fusion, the coaching company, right? And I got in touch with them, signed up for a coach, and it was, to me, I mean, I was making $200 a month and this was a $350 a month thing, but I'm like, whatever. I just got my first credit card, put it on the credit card, same thing as you. And I said, I guess this is going to be losing money and going into debt over this is going to be the only thing that keeps me committed to this. And I knew I needed to do it. So I finally did after weeks of kind of dodging it, and then got on my first meal plan. And I remember taking my first ever check-in pictures in my garage with horrible lighting, just looking like total, I would I want to look back at myself then and just bully myself, you know what I mean? But at the same time, that was my first process of that was me getting started, you know what I mean? I had bought $100 light kit on Amazon to take check-in photos of myself. And this was years ago. Now that's normal, you know what I mean? And so I got a coach, and then after a few months realized, okay, like, let me just take this meal plan now and do it myself, play with the numbers a little bit, add more food, get bigger, take away food, get skinnier, you know what I mean? And then just figured it out from there, and met enough people and local friends that, were into the gym, and then just kind of accumulated, the knowledge that I do now. I used to do videography for a lot of the big bodybuilders down in South Florida, around the raw nutrition facilities and stuff like that. So I'm sitting there videoing these bodybuilders and their coaches, coaching them mid-session, and I'm just soaking up all this knowledge like a sponge, And so then that's where my journey started, and I ended up going from 205 pounds on my heaviest to, I think it was about 24 months later, I got to my lowest. I got to a nice lean 149, no loose skins, did it nice and slow the whole time, like never, starved myself. There was hard days for sure, but I got real used to 2 hours of cardio with a trash bag on the stairs every morning until I couldn't sweat anymore. And then I realized that I put my body into too low of like cortisol, or too high of cortisol, and I wasn't able to sweat anymore. I couldn't lose any more weight. I'm doing hours of cardio every day. And then I realized what I had to do was, relax a little bit more and just focus on, 10,000 steps a day, 10 minutes of cardio after your workout, and then just put myself in a more calmer state. Yeah. And then that's how I was able to break through and lose like that last like 15 soft pounds of weight, you know what I mean? And then finally I was like, holy crap, like I actually did this. And then that's where discipline over motivation started, because in that tail end, that last few weeks, I would just tell myself all day, every day, discipline over motivation. Like, this is literally, like, I'm right here on the cusp of like having these abs, and which was my goal. My goal was literally just to get abs so I could look good naked and find a wife. And funny enough, the day that I matched with my now wife on Tinder was the first day I saw my abs. And I was talking her up that morning, and I remember sending her a nice little Snapchat picture of my abs that I just got 2 hours ago. And like then at that point I considered my fitness grind complete. Now it's just about, maintaining it throughout the rest of my life. And so pretty crazy. We have, it's so funny, we have so many like little like blips of similarities throughout our journey from the girl to guy version, you know what I mean? But anyway, so yeah, go back to, you had lost this job that you put all this time into, and then you had decided, you know what, I can do this myself. I've learned so much. You have already affected so many lives at this point. You knew what you went through, so you knew that, you were confident enough to start a venture like this that was your name behind it. You were doing everything. You were continuing to deliver all these things you've learned over the years. So what was the moment that, how do you go from being so mean to yourself to then so confident to yourself to where you knew that you could affect, thousands of people like you have today?
So I think before we get into me getting fired and like reading Ember and everything, I think it's important to kind of preface, like, because it seems like it happened overnight, and it seems like Ember just blew up like that, which it kind of did. But the work that I have put in over the past 10 years, an entire decade.
To be this young and say that you're doing anything for a decade is crazy.
So with the company that I was affiliated with, when I hired my coach and when I was going through the program, I have been transparent on social media since the day that I started my fitness journey in August of 2016. So I have also used social media as like an accountability platform, because I tried to start my fitness journey probably 800 times before I actually committed. And I was like, if I post it online, it's real. And I actually have to follow through, and I actually have to show up, because people are watching.
Then you look stupid. Yeah.
And I look stupid, and I don't want to look stupid. So I started posting, and then I started getting these beautiful messages like from other women saying like, I went to the gym today because I saw you go to the gym today. Or like, I started weighing my food because I saw you weigh your food. And like, you're happy, it's just like I was inspiring people before I was a coach, before I even thought that I even wanted to be a coach. I found so much value and so much purpose in being able to share my story and share my experience by just getting those messages. And from 2016, that is how I built my community, by giving people free advice, the resources and the knowledge that I got from my coach, I was just like, oh, she taught me this. Like, let me teach you this. And then they would come back to me and be like, oh, yeah, like I started doing this, I started implementing this. And it just felt good to be able to positively impact someone's life in a way that my life was being impacted. And I just wanted to share everything that I was learning and share all of just the way that I was feeling. Like I had just had confidence blasting out of my eyeballs. Like even with like losing a couple pounds at first. Like I remember like first 10 pounds that I lost, I was so ecstatic and I was so excited. I was like, wow, I can do this and I can show other women that you don't have to be, you're not like some special alien human being to like to make this work for you. And at the time, it took me 5 years to lose my first 65 pounds because I also was in my early 20s and my social life was very important to me. So I never wanted to let go of that. Could I maybe have lost the weight a lot faster? Yes. But at the same time, I was living my life the way that I wanted to and having that balance while also progressing towards my goals. Now, were there seasons of stagnation and seasons where I did go up? Yes. But I always reeled it back in and I always refocused and I always kept it at 100. Like I always showed my wins and my face plants and all the things over the past 10 years. I've been through some really just crazy shit over the last decade, including like very toxic relationships, moving across the country multiple times. My dad passed away in 2021 from COVID. I have gone through so much grief and heartache and hardship. Like when I met Matthew in 2023, like I was working at a bar, also, you know, trying to get my coaching business like as an assistant coach in 2023. I was working at a bar, selling my blood plasma to literally pay for my groceries, pay for my bills. Like I have been through the deep, dark trenches of hell to get to where I am right now. But anyways, that's besides the point. But I've been so transparent on social media with all of this since 2016. So the fact that I mean these 8,000, 9,000 followers have been with me since then. So that's why when all of this stuff that I'm about to go into went down, that's why they showed up for me because I built that trust and I built that rapport by having those intimate conversations in the DMs, by me working with over 900 people since 2022, one-on-one with custom nutrition plans, with just supporting them free of charge on FaceTime or, you know, in Instagram DMs or on Facebook or whatever. Like I've always, this is literally my purpose in life. And it brings me truly the most fulfillment is to support other women who was where I once was, who struggled the same way or have, you know, different struggles and that I can help and everything too. But anyways, so when I was a client with the company that I was affiliated with and with that I was an assistant coach with, I brought an entire age demographic to that company for years, to my coach. The owner of the company, she reached out to me when I was a client and she was like, hey, you're bringing us hundreds of people. Can I pay you? Can we create some type of like affiliate program or something where you partner with your coach, you bring her leads, and then she pays you a finder's fee? I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll do this shit for free. But like, yeah, sure, pay me. I got hundreds of people to come to my coach because I believed in the program and I believed in having a coach so much that I wanted, again, other people to experience what I experienced. Mental, physical, all the transformation. As time went on, I realized that I hated working in a doctor's office. I've always wanted to help people. And I found that I was good at selling because I converted a lot of leads. I got on a lot of sales calls to in this affiliate program. I built a confidence of selling people the program for the little finder's fee, $20. Here's $20, like things they're selling me, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
100, like so many people. And I found myself like waking up and like not being excited to go to my office job, but like, I would like be on my phone. I worked at Lens Crafters at the time, but I'd like be on my phone, like talking about the program and like talking about and just like speaking life into people. you can do, if I can do this, you can do this. I'm like just selling them basically. And then like one day it hit me. I was like, damn, I'm literally making my coach so much money. Why don't I get my certifications and do this too? And at that point, it was from 2016 to 2021 that I had all of this concrete evidence that I knew what I was doing. I was practicing what I was preaching. I was fully embodying it, and I was a walking embodiment of what I'm doing now. So I was like, I'm gonna just get my certifications, like whatever I have to do, and then I'm gonna apply to work for this company that I was getting all my friends to join.
Right.
Fast forward, I got my nutrition certifications with NASM. I then applied to be a coach with the company that I was an assistant coach with for 3.5 years. And the owner, you know, she interviewed me. I was obviously, and we called it an ambassador. It's an ambassador program. I was an ambassador. She saw my, you know, I was maintaining my weight. I was bringing in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients. I was a light in the community. I would be on my little community page, just hyping people up that I never even talked to. I was just, and I still am, just a bright light to other people when all they saw was darkness. So she saw that. She saw the belief in me and took the chance on me. I've never worked in a gym. I've never been a fitness coach before. I've never done anything like my degree is in opticianry. I was working as an optician for 7 years in an eye doctor's office. So she took me on, and literally the day that I announced that I was a coach for them, I got like 7 enrollments within my first hour.
That's insane.
She calls me and she's like, don't freak out. She was like, you're going to be okay. We're going to walk you through this. Space him out. Tell him that you're booking 2 weeks out, and we're going to do this. Because at the time, it used to take me 4 hours to write one meal plan. Because I was like, I was very proficient and efficient with using MyFitnessPal and like doing my own food. But when I got in front of someone who has different food preferences, I was like, oh, I never have had that. So I would need to go to the grocery store.
Different now. Yeah.
It's different. So it's different than like making your own meal plan. So obviously, like I can make a meal plan in my freaking sleep now. Like it's like I've done so many at this point.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was just like overwhelmed with how many people signed up to work with me in the beginning. And I was like, oh, this is, again, me having shown up since 2016 and showing my journey and like being relatable to people and my willingness to help just serve other people. So anyways, that was March 22nd, 2022. I became an assistant coach. I quickly built my roster, built my confidence. My first like 2 years, it was pretty slow. So 2022, 2023, like it was pretty slow. But like in 2024, I did hit my first $100,000 in a year, which was so amazing. In 2025, I was on the trajectory to hit like multiple 6 figures until right.
Done.
I'm done. So
you were able to create, you know, community through social proof, like the most efficient and organic way possible. Years and years of free information, and just not even that. Like you had the assets, you had the information, you had the knowledge, you had the experience. That's all cool. But the most important factor out of all that, and I'm curious to know whether somebody has ever actually told you this straight up, like that, is people, it's as simple as people just watched you do it. You know what I mean? The only people I, you know, actually look at on social media, right, is the people that actually do it. If I see somebody that, you know, claims they can do XYZ, but I don't see immediate significant proof, I look the other direction. This is fake. You know what I mean? And I can't tell you how many online fitness coaches I've seen and gotten that, you know, fake vibe or try to say they've done, you know, XYZ. But for you, people watched you do it for 10 years before you even started monetizing it. That doesn't happen anymore, and it probably won't really ever happen again because people are so quick to monetize and get rich quick and all this stuff. And people from the outside in might think that that's who Rachel Clark is, or that's who what EMBR coaching is, but it's not. You know what I mean? And that's the point of this podcast episode, right? Is to show people like the actual, like, you have done like, the grind for years and years and years and years and years. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even know people worked out in 2016. Obviously they kind of did, but not with the intentions I had at our age. That was not a thing. In 2016, I was a sophomore in high school. You know what I mean? Nobody went to the gym except for, like, the old people at the YMCA, you know what I mean? Which is why you mentioned that, you were able to, hit a niche that was at that time not a thing yet. I didn't even know that your story actually went back that far. So that's insane. So you really did things, the right way, took it nice and slow, and sacrificed like how early you could have monetized it just to keep being a good human about it, honestly, is the best way to put it. And that's why, you're just so successful you are right now with this, because there's no there's no possible way you could look at, scroll through your page and be like, damn, like this chick isn't legit. Like, it'd be impossible. It would be just hate watching at that point. You know what I mean? So anyways, yeah. So now you've, gone through all of this, got let go of your job. Do you want to get into that, or you want to talk about starting Ember?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
We do,
go
we do.
ahead. Let's do it.
So the company that I had put so much love and effort and energy into, right? Since 2018, 2019, when I enrolled with them.
From the sounds of it, you were probably one of, if not the biggest growth factor probably in this company. For me, I can truthfully say that you have been an extraordinary growth factor for discipline over motivation. Your audience not only supports we're doing something in collaboration with you, but they stick around. You know what I mean? So, which shows, you've brought true growth to the company, not just like a one-day thing. You know what I mean? So it sounds like that's pretty much what you did, throughout your years, right, at this company.
Yep, yep. So my love and devotion towards my coach at the time, the owner of the company, the clients that were affiliated with that company, there was just a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, right? That I poured into this, that I stood with my full chest behind.
It's serious when somebody brings up the blood, sweat, and tears term. That's not one that ever thrown around lightly.
Yeah. So I chose to get into bodybuilding because, as one does, when you love fitness, you love nutrition, you love the work, right? I was looking for my next thing that I could push myself towards. I was like, okay,
Took
well,
a hobby and figured out how to make it more of a sport and competitive, right? It sounds
yeah,
like.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like, I've been working out since 2016. I'm a coach. I love what I do. How can I push myself? I love growth. I love pushing myself. I love challenges. Like when I was a client also of that company, I did 12 of their like little 8-week challenges. Every single one that they did, I enrolled in. And I won first place in a couple of them. But I'm just a competitive person at nature and like want to show up as my best always. So I'm like, oh, any little challenge that I can do, I'm gonna like, put myself in.
Of course.
So I just thought like, okay, well, next step is maybe doing a bodybuilding competition. Let me see how far I can take this thing. Like, I'm in a really good
Yeah.
spot. Yeah, I'm in a really good spot financially now because I did my first 6 figures in 2024. Matt and I had just gotten married. We were living together. Like, he's always wanted to do bodybuilding, so we're like, let's do it together. So
You
we
guys started it together.
we started it together.
I
Yeah,
did not know that. I
yeah,
figured maybe he kind of got you into that. That's cool. So hold on, we'll go, remember where you're at. So when in this timeline, you met Matt, how long were you guys with each other before you got married? And how, like, understanding and accepting was he, like, of your journey there as you, started to
yeah.
do your own thing?
So we met when I was living in Nashville in the summer of 2023. We actually met on Hinge. He had just moved there like 2 weeks before. He was coaching football at Tennessee Tech, and he was not making like anything. He was a GA. I wasn't, again, in 2023, like that was when I was selling my blood plasma. I was working at a bar and also trying to get my coaching business like off the ground, right? Like the first couple years, it was like I was making good money, but it wasn't enough that I needed, at the time. So we met, and then he lived in Cookville, I lived in Nashville. It was about like 80 or 90 mile
Right.
away from each other. So it was like my long distance for a little bit. And then we moved to Myrtle Beach because he got a job at Coastal Carolina. So we moved there January of 2024. And then we got engaged April of 2024, and then we eloped on July 1st of 2024.
Oh
Yeah,
man, that was quick.
it was
I
quick.
didn't know it was that quick. That's awesome. That's
Yep,
so funny.
yep. So, I mean, we knew the first week of knowing each other. We're like, oh, yep.
Yeah, that's
So,
how me and my wife were. The first, I think, phone conversation we had the day we matched together, we had like 10-hour phone call. One of those, like, get on the phone at
yeah.
6 p.m. and I think we got off at like 4 a.m. because I
Yeah.
fell asleep or something like that. So I can totally relate. And then me and my wife, when we met, we ended up moving across the country with each other like 2 months later. Like, just when you meet your person, you just like, oh, and that's that, and nothing else you ever did, anybody you ever talked to, nothing matters anymore. And
Yeah.
it's like the best feeling of it's a life promotion, you know what I mean?
So
Like,
awesome.
So,
It's so
anyways,
great.
but that's insane.
But yeah, so we moved. You know, we were living in Myrtle Beach, and it was right after we got married that my business really started to pick up at the time, like in 2024, whatever. And I was like, we should do bodybuilding because he's been training for like 14 years. He was a Division I football player. He was a football coach. He looks he was sculpted from the gods, but we never independently had enough money to do bodybuilding because it's a very expensive sport. So anyways, we chose to do bodybuilding, and in my contract with the company that I was an assistant coach with, kind of stated like, if you are to have a coach, it needs to be Kelly. It needs to be someone on the team. And Kelly, the owner of the company, was the only bodybuilding coach. So she coached some other coaches that were also bodybuilders on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, she's made pros. She used to be a professional bodybuilder herself. She's been in the game a long
Pretty
time.
interesting thing to put in a contract.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
kinda-
There was a lot of interesting things in
Did you
that
have to
contract.
pay for it too?
Yeah.
Oh, I would
Yeah.
think if it was mandatory through your, like maybe be free or I don't know.
No.
That's just me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hired her in August of 2024 as my first bodybuilding coach to do my first prep with me. I made the decision because I felt as if I had maximized my genetic potential already from having been working out heavily for 8 years before I started bodybuilding. I made the choice to become an enhanced athlete. So I was taking peptides and PEDs. That's my choice. The day that I hired Kelly, I told her I am going to be taking PEDs and peptides, and I'm going to be an enhanced athlete. I want to play with the big dogs. I want to do the NPC, which is the non-tested federation, which 90+% of the bodybuilders there use enhancements. I was like, I want to do this. I love it. So cool. No big deal. She had a couple other athletes that were also using it, and she took me on as a client. For 10 months, she coached me. She knew, obviously, that I was taking enhancements. She gave me recommendations and protocol advice for said enhancements, knowing that I was on these, enhancements the entire time for 10 months. Again, I just want to preface that she took my money and was my coach that I hired that was supporting me for 10 months. Fast forward, the first show, I chose to do a show in Florida. She lives in Florida. She did not come to my first show ever. She did not take the time to come to my show. After all of the years that I had stood beside her and her business, she did not come to my show because she doesn't work weekends. She didn't even answer my check-in. When I checked in with her in the morning, the day of my show, I sent her my check-in photos at like 30 or 4 a.m. because then I had hair and makeup at like 5 a.m. and then my tanning at 6 a.m. Show starts at 8:30 a.m. for prejudging. She didn't answer my check-in and FaceTime me back until probably 30 minutes or an hour before I went on stage. She didn't come to my show. She didn't give me feedback for my check-ins. She actually gave me my peak week protocol 2 weeks before, which is now looking back very inappropriate because I should have been doing daily check-ins with her multiple times a day, but she had me sending photos, weight measurements every 2 weeks. That's more of lifestyle stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to, it was all ChatGPT. We figured that out. So after I had a crash out, I was like, I saw other athletes backstage and they had their coaches there. They were taking pictures with them. They were like pumping them up with bands and things like that. And I did not feel supported at all. I felt like a little lost puppy. I was like, and then I just felt sad and I felt hurt and I felt angry almost because I was paying this woman. And also I looked up to her as a mentor. I looked up to her kind of as like a mom figure almost too, as my like someone that I
How could you not with
wildly
how much time
respected.
you spent around her? Yeah, absolutely.
So I just felt like disregarded and disappointed. I sat on the decision for a week. I was like, okay, let me get some food back in me to make sure that I'm making the right decision because I don't want to fire my boss. Like that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
How is this gonna work? Like I'm in this 15-month non-compete. What if she fires me? What's going on? So all of these thoughts are racing through my head, but I knew deep down in my heart that she just did not need to be my coach anymore. So I called her from the gym parking lot in tears. I was like, Kelly, I've been sitting on this decision and I've been wanting to have this conversation with you the past week, but I need a bodybuilding coach that lives and breathes bodybuilding, that will come to my show, that is someone honestly my age that has a team behind them that I can collaborate with, that I can connect with. Hold on, sorry. And I don't want this to come in between like me working for you or whatever, but like I need somebody who's going to be there. And she was okay. She was like, I totally understand. She was like, I know I'm so busy with the company. I know I'm so busy with her 5 grandkids. She has a full roster of clients. She has a full team of we had 17 coaches working there at the time.
Wow. Wow.
So
Wow. Wow.
she's busy. But why would you take a prep athlete if you're not going to come, if you're not going to work weekends? That's when bodybuilding shows are. Anyways, besides the point. She said it was fine. Like we had like an hour-long conversation and she was like, this is not going to affect your job. It's not going to affect your work. It's okay. You can tag your new coach. It's not a big deal. I want this for you. Like I want you to succeed. I want you to be happy. I want you to explore like this hobby of yours. And I'm like, perfect. Felt really good about it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, the weight was lifted off your chest, and it
Yeah.
sounds like the next step for you, and everything sounded good.
Yeah. So 48 hours later, I was like, I mean, the whole week I was looking for other coaches. I was like, who, would I vibe with? Like whose methods do I, align with and everything. And Charmaine, my new coach, who's still my coach, she's amazing. Literally
Yeah,
an
she
name's
looks
on
like
her.
a beast. I've seen
Yeah.
you tag her and post. I'm like, this girl. Like, when you just said a second ago, you need somebody who lives and breathes bodybuilding. I instantly thought of her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She's just amazing. She's brilliant. She's passionate. She's everything that I want to be in a coach too. So I was like, okay, me and her will definitely vibe. So, anyways, reached out to her. We had a consult, hired her immediately. She took me on as a prep athlete 3.5 weeks out from my next show. I was like, hey, I don't know if you do this, but like, I just fired my coach. I need help, going into this next show. I need support. I will hire you right now if you come to Florida for my next show.
Yeah.
He flew from Virginia to Florida after just
Sick.
knowing me for 3.5 weeks. Well,
Yeah,
not
that's
not knowing
awesome.
me. She's from my hometown, actually. She's from like, the Virginia Beach area, or she's from Texas, but she lived in Virginia Beach. A lot of my friends knew her. I've heard only good things about Charmaine and like her work and everything. So she flew out to Florida, came to my show. It was 10 out of 10, amazing. So, anyways, fast forward, my husband and I go to the Dominican Republic for our 1 year wedding anniversary. And then we go to Nashville after. We're just like traveling because he did his show, I did my show. Now we're life maxing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Life
Normal
max-
life again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
getting back to normal life, all the things. After I fired her as my coach, I did my last show. I went on vacation.
That was the Charleston show, right? The last one.
No,
When you
no,
did.
I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about last year when I got
Yeah.
fired.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
They were
Got
both
it.
in Florida. They're
okay.
one was in the first one was in Orlando.
Oh, Matt did the Charleston one after, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I did
So
one in after we came back from vacation. Kelly had reached out to me. She was like, "Hey, post show, I want to make sure that you're feeling good with your client load, with, whatever you need support with. Like, let's just have a call and we'll review like mid-year review, basically." I was like, "All right, cool. Like, next Monday, we can schedule it for 10 a.m. Not a big deal." So
at that time, did you think anything fishy was going on
no,
potentially, or just under the
no,
radar? Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of like a little bit weird vibes, like from my teammates and also from Kelly because I was tagging my coach. Like I was going off like, being out of prep. And I never had obviously dogged that experience of, not working with Kelly anymore. Like I just was,
And I was following you this time too, so like I definitely didn't notice anything I
yeah,
would have because I'm weird, but yeah,
yeah. It just wasn't a good fit. Like, sometimes a coach
yeah,
isn't a good fit for you
yeah,
because you need a different level of support. And I think that every athlete should, or every, even lifestyle clients, like you have the opportunity to make those decisions for yourself. If somebody you're not vibing with, like you can find someone else that you do
just
vibe
like
with.
dating. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I get on Zoom and it's Kelly and one of the lead coaches at the company that I was an assistant coach with. And they sat me down and Kelly was like, "Actually, you're being terminated." I said, "What?" Completely blindsided me.
Mm,
About 30 minutes before I got locked out of my email, my calendar basically is wiped. My clients are all being reassigned to other coaches on our team. I was getting flooded with text messages saying, "Did you fire me as a client? What's going on?" And I'm flabbergasted at this point. I'm like, literally, what is happening?
right.
Anyway, so we're on Zoom. It was only like 10-minute call because I turned my video off. I was sobbing because I was like, 2 weeks before also, Matt quit his job because you gave him the opportunity to work for the nose strip company
Right.
that you guys are affiliated with. And I was like, I'm making enough money for the both of us. Like you can quit football. You have this other opportunity that is a potential, right? You're doing TikTok shop, like follow your dreams. I got us.
Yeah.
That was 2 weeks before. And Kelly knew, the whole team knew that I was being fired and that she was
Mm,
planning and plotting on firing me. Probably, likely from the day that I fired her.
right. Absolutely. I mean, a decision like that, right? Like you already talked about the history, the growth factor, what you brought to the team, how conveniently you get through your show. You go on a vacation, and I guess maybe she had the courtesy to at least not send you into the vacation a mess and waited till you got back. There was that little bit maybe, but then you get back and you're thinking, okay, back to work, and then all of a sudden like your whole world is upside down.
Yeah. Yep. So the reason she gave me is because I chose to be an enhanced athlete, and that doesn't align with the values of that company. And I said, "So it was fine for you to take my $400 a month as my coach for 10 months and give me support and protocol for it, but now it's not?" And
Sudden,
she just,
yeah.
yeah, I confronted her on that. I was like, and then I was in my desperation mode. I was like, "Well, I'll stop bodybuilding. I'll stop." I offered to stop. I was like, "I will not step on stage ever again in my life or take another enhancement or peptide or whatever if this allows me to have a second chance and to keep my job." And she said, "Sorry, the damage is already done." I said, that's when I turned my video off. I was like, "Oh,
Great.
the damage. The damage is already done. What fucking damage am I doing? First of all, am I like shooting my clients up with
Yeah.
peptides or PEDs or whatever? Like, that's
Right.
great. That's insane. What damage? What damage? Okay." So I was like, whatever. She wiped my calendar, ripped everything away from me. And then I was just like sitting in my office for like 15 minutes after, and I was just like, just sobbing, crying. I was like, everything that I've put the past 8 years of my life into just got ripped away because some woman got her ego hurt because I didn't vibe with her as my coach anymore.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
especially it would be a valid termination, but the fact that she was your coach, took all your money, was clearly aware to what you were doing, was helping you, even not just watching and not really addressing, but like literally helping
The
you.
notes were in the back office. I could see
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
notes. She put the notes of me taking X, Y, and Z in. She
And
knew.
then right, and then her, the boss lady's commitment factor to logging you out of all your stuff before that was even done. Like, if anybody I work with right now, if I was to be let go of what I'm doing, that stuff would happen after. You know what I mean? But the fact that it was all done before, the mind was made up, you didn't have any opportunity to, represent yourself, right, and just be a good human and have a conversation, right? Because like I would say for you, like even in a hard moment like that, like I can't really see you being like undeservingly unreasonable. You know what I mean? And that's really a shame that it had to go down the way that it did.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's insane. So you get off this call, and I remember you had a couple like hard days, right? Lots of tears, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
It
then
was like 72 hours of me just like not knowing where I was going to go next and like how we were going to pay our rent also.
right, right,
Because not only did she terminate me, she said, we got paid once a month. So it was like first through the 28th was like pay period. And then we would get paid between the 29th and like 5th of that following month for the work that we
mm-hmm,
did. And also, may I also add, the whole entire month of July, apparently she knew she was going to fire me for like over a month, but she did this like, Christmas in July sale, and I made the most amount of money that I've ever made by.
I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, she milked me. She milked me. I
squeezed
made her
every last
so
bit out
much
of
money.
you before.
And then when I got on the termination call, she was like, "Hope you have enough money saved because you're gonna owe the company a lot of money for all of the work that you haven't done yet." Basically, is like, so we had like different programs that we offered, and until you like showed up to that call, you didn't like get, or you got the money up front, but basically she like backtracked. Although I sold everything, and like I would have like my first of 3 meetings like, with the client or whatever, she'd only paid me for the meeting that I showed up to, and a lot of them were like open.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, "You're gonna owe us thousands and thousands of dollars because you still have meetings on your calendar that you haven't provided that service yet."
Right.
Basically. So I was like,
Yeah. Double fucked. Yeah.
double fucked. So I just made you 25,000 whatever dollars, and also I'm gonna owe you thousands of dollars because you're not even giving me a 2 week notice to finish out these contracts that these women
Yeah.
signed with me.
Yeah.
That's like,
The decent, normal
there's
human
no
thing. Yeah.
human decency in that decision that she made at all.
Right.
So I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Right. So then we really leaned into the Coach Rachel sale, and I thank God every day for you that we did that. And like, I was just gonna be like, oh, I guess I'm a clothing girl now, like, for a month non-compete, which is crazy. I'm a little online nutrition coach, like not some like billion-dollar Microsoft, like have all
Mm-hmm.
the secrets or whatever. It's like 15 months is excessive to
Oh
not
yeah.
be able to support my clients or work in a gym or work in the industry at all. When am I going to go back to lens crafters? No.
Right.
Are you kidding me? So,
I remember after that initial blow of all this, again, we did the coach racial sale. We made some money, made a couple grand with each other and whatnot, and that was fantastic. And shout out to the Coach Rachel Army for that and all the hard work we did there. But then your next venture there, right, was figuring out the non-compete situation. And I know that was a long, strenuous, process, lots of meetings, stuff like that. What did that look like? How were you able to finally finesse your way out of that? And I don't remember that situation fully, but in short, how were you able to do that?
so because I was in a 15-month non-compete, it was like I had it on my calendar. Like the day I got fired, I'm like, okay, I just have to wait 15 months. Like that's it. Like I can pick up
I
bartending
remember
jobs.
posting a wait list, and it was like accepting clients, and the year it was like 2035 or what, you know what I mean? Like forever away, basically.
Literally October 2027.
Yeah, it was crazy, which is
Was
still
it?
so far away from right now.
No, it's this October because it's 15 months. So that's
Yeah.
yeah. it would be October 2026. The first 72 hours, I was just like distraught. Like, what am I gonna do? And then I was like, hey, you got to figure this out, right? And then I knew that I would have to wait until October of 2026 to like launch and to actually like, take clients or whatever. But I went to a coffee shop and I just started building. I just started building my vision. What do I want this to be called? What do I want to be? Because I'm gonna do this on my own. I don't want to work for another company again. I want to figure this out, and because I have such amazing people in my life that do trust me and love me and will support me no matter what. So I'm like, build it and they will come.
Yeah.
So
Was this like your first? Obviously, some people will refer to like being a social media girl, right? Like as like an entrepreneur, but that's just being an influencer or whatever, not
yeah,
true entrepreneurship. So was Ember your first like, business, like your first real business? Okay, yeah. So I think it's really fascinating. Like, some people grow up entrepreneurs, right? Like me, like I started my first business, which was selling paper, and then we graduated into duct tape wallets in fourth grade. I was born an entrepreneur.
yeah,
You became an entrepreneur, over time as you got good at something and then realized, hey, like I can, why depend on, other people when I can now do this myself, do it bigger, do it better. You have the credentials, let's do this. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think it's so cool. Like some of the biggest entrepreneurs in the world were not ones that were born entrepreneurs. Jeff Bezos, he started Amazon. He was like 35 years old. You know what I mean? That's 10 years from me, several years from you. Like, that's insane. And now it's dang near the biggest, thing in the country, right? So like so insane how like you can just, one day, just be like, hey, I'm gonna take this insane risk. You know what I mean? Usually entrepreneurs that were born that way are just like insane. You know what I mean? And but for you to then graduate into that decision like because of experience is like really really cool. I find that super awesome.
thank you. And I just had a stack of undeniable belief in myself from being an assistant coach, from making my first $100,000 in 2024 to my trajectory in 2025 was to do well over that as well. And I was just like, well, if I can do that for another company and being an assistant coach for someone else, I can do that for myself. Why
Absolutely.
can't I? Right. So I was like, obviously, I'm going to do this. So, anyways, I fast forward a couple weeks, was just, doing my thing, right?
Yeah.
Social media, just figuring it out. I went to, I came to Austin, actually, where we live now, for a friend's bachelorette trip. And while I was on this trip, I got sent when we were at the gym this Facebook post that Kelly made. And it was basically shitting on me, saying I'm a horrible coach. I didn't know what I was doing, blah, blah, blah. Basically trying to defend herself for firing me because my social media army went fucking ham on this woman. They were just like, why, you know,
Did you do anything to poke the
provoke that?
bear on that
Nope,
situation? No. Okay.
nope,
Gotcha.
not once, not once. But because she did that, I decided, what have I got to lose?
Yeah.
What have
Yeah.
I got to lose? I don't own my house. Like, we don't own anything. Like, we don't have any kids. Like, if you sue me, all right, I gotta fucking cool. What are you gonna
Yeah.
take?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I kind of posted like everything that had happened, and I was vocal about it. Before then, I just kept everything quiet. I was like, I'm just waiting on my non-compete, y'all. I'm just
Yeah.
waiting on my non-compete. I'm just waiting on my non-compete. That was all my posts. Waiting on my non-compete. 398 whatever days. I'm just like, countdown is on, right? And Matt's dad is a lawyer. He was giving me a lot of help and resources and everything like, through this too. What to say, what not to say on social media, etc. Like what I can do, what I can't do in this non-compete. She had a lawyer that was, reaching out. They whatever, I didn't sign shit. After she had posted that Facebook post, my people, my army, went ham. They went ham on any message that I got of them sharing their experience, their perspective, their whatever that they had with Kelly and with, the company that I was working for. I just blasted. I just blasted it. this lasted for about 48 hours. And she could not take the wrath anymore that she emailed me and she was like, please cease and desist. Your non-compete is lifted. You are free to do what you want. You're free to make your own company. She was like, just please stop the social media blasting. I was like, okay, fair enough.
That's a fair deal. Yeah.
Whatever. I was like, cool. That's what I wanted. What I wanted.
So that Coach Rachel Army, the 8,000 that developed over the time, came in like the most insane clutch moment probably of your life, you know, at least until this point. That's when you put it like that. I think I got goosebumps all over my body right now. That was pretty epic. That's awesome. That's so cool. And then for you guys that don't know, listening to this from this situation right here, right? We had just done the Coach Rachel sale, right? Which was to help, you know, the Clark family pay rent and get back on their feet and, you know, good vibes and all that stuff. We then decided to say, you know what, we're going to take this a step further. And we released our first collaboration with Coach Rachel actual t-shirt, because before it was just a sale of what we currently had. And it was called the In My Opinion t-shirt, because our thing when Rachel was posting all over social media about what she was going through and all this good stuff, she had to always say, you know, in you know, a situation like this, right, you have to be very clear that things are just your opinion, right? Like, you have to be very careful with your facts and what you put on the internet and how it can be taken out of context and things that. So it's very imperative to, you know, always state that this is your opinion, right? And I think I probably saw Rachel post about 200 Instagram stories in the span of a couple days, just in my opinion, in my opinion, in my opinion. So then I said, hey guys, let's go ahead and just release another t-shirt, you know, called the In My Opinion t-shirt. So I literally took the most weird, odd 3-word phrase that nobody's ever done this before, taken just a bland phrase like that means actually nothing, and we made a sick lifestyle graphic design, put it on a t-shirt, made it, you know, Rachel's, you know, preferred color vibe t-shirt bagginess, and then combined it with the discipline over motivation mantra and style, and just put out the most awesome but odd t-shirt for the Coach Rachel Army that supported her throughout all this, as a basically memorabilia to Rachel's, you know, at this point, one of the biggest turning points in her, you know, work life. And that was such an awesome way to just like flip the bird on, you know, closing a chapter and you know, on to the next thing. So that's I think about that story all the time. That's such like we're gonna remember that when we're 80 doing another podcast one day and just be like, man, like we really did it right. You know what I mean?
Yep. And like, oh my gosh, it wouldn't have happened if Kelly didn't run her mouth as a 55, 60-year-old woman. 60, I don't know. She's like 60. If she didn't run her mouth on Facebook, that's just crazy. So yeah, when I got that email, I was like, perfect. And then I was sitting like at my friend's bachelorette trip in Austin by the pool, and I'm just like on my phone, just trying to brainstorm of like, what am I gonna? I'm fast tracked now. I don't have to wait 15 months to open my company.
Yeah, we're launching this company now. Let's do it. You started building, you know, already, right? So
yeah. So we came up with the name EMBR, which I didn't have like an acronym for this, but when I came up with this, until I hired my first business coach, Nick Comodina, love him, in February.
Shout out Nick.
Shout out Nick. But basically, I chose the name EMBR because it represents like, I mean, it represented that situation. Like my life was kind of like burned to the ground, but now it's like a phoenix, like rising from the ashes, almost like a flame type of situation.
The little flame was still there holding on.
Yeah, exactly. And I can like relate that to my clients as well, because when they come and work with us and with me, we're kind of like burning your old identity and who you used to be, and like that version of you that you don't want to carry forward. We're burning that version of you down, and you have this spark and you have this flame and you have this opportunity to immerse from the ashes and to recreate yourself. So it just like ties into like my career as an assistant coach with them, as a client with them, as so many years of my life. that I shut that door to now build this. So backstory too, when I sat down with Nick, he was like, well, that's amazing, but like, what does EMBR stand for? And I was like, honestly, I just let name. I think it's kind of cute. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he was like, we need to have something, deeper behind it. I was like, okay. So he's like, how about every moment builds resilience? I was like,
That aligns.
that aligns. That's perfect. I love that. So that's how our
You would
little.
think that when I hear that, once you created that acronym, it's like you'd think that that is basically the word for word definition of the word Ember in general. So the fact that like the acronym and the name go so well together, looks good together, represents your story, everything like that, like it is an awesome like full circle thing, and stuff like that. So when but from all, we've talked about the generations now, or the decades now of the online fitness coaching has been a thing, and you've basically been around since the very start of this, because you can basically call it a trend on social media, online fitness coaching, right? So many people are into fitness now. And what, with all of the things that you learned throughout the years, the companies you've worked with, worked under, just viewed from the outside on social media, like what is the difference between Ember and every other coaching platform out there, right? And I know you've kind of generalized that a little bit, but like if you could tell me in 2 to 3 sentences, like what is your most powerful mission statement?
So let's see. So what I feel makes Ember different is we don't just focus on, getting you obviously like the physique that you want. Like, yes, that's the cherry on top. That's why, people join our program to begin with. But we help you figure out who you are and get very clear on exactly what you want and what success looks for you and for your life and for your lifestyle, and how to identify the patterns and the behaviors that have gotten you up to this point, the behavioral change that needs to happen, and the identity change that needs to happen in order to become the person that has the capacity to hold the type of physique and the type of life that you're looking to have.
That's so
And
true, because those aren't separate things. You
yeah,
have to, like, if you want a good physique, you gotta lock the frickin' mentally. I've noticed through my journey personally, right? Like the times that I'm like the least proud of myself business wise, or just overall output wise, it's when my physique looks the worst. You know what I mean? It's when I'm binge eating and relying on food for that, emotion that I'm not able to, guard myself of just through my self control. You know what I mean? So I totally get that. A lot of people think that, you said you buy a meal plan, you're just going to get the results. No, 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 no. Like there is a little bit of a guide, but it's really just all here and here. You know what I mean? Like those are, it all works together. And I definitely, what's so cool about Ember, and like what I've always seen like, from you guys, your coaches as well. Shout out to your coaches. You have some awesome girls that I've become friends with over the last year and a half now, and they're so great. And your audience in general as well, is like it's so obvious that like all those girls are, everybody's dealing with their own things obviously in their own journey, but it's so clear to me that those just seem like healthiest mindseted like girls that I've like witnessed on social media, right? Like they're all chasing down the same thing, which is just to be who they want to be by doing it the right way, under your umbrella of you and your coaches. And it doesn't, there's no way you could look at like, Ember and your clients and think that there's any like, quick fix, put a patch on it, lose the weight overnight thing. Like it's all very clear that it's like, this is a journey. Like, you start and it's going to take years, you know what I mean? And that's another very like powerful like entrepreneurial concept. And what I meant to say earlier about like you and Ember and you starting your entrepreneurial journey at 30 years old is like, you have done all of this so right, because you've done it like a long game way, instead of just starting working out and then a coaching company a month later, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. Like, that's why this is just so like, has such a good foundation, you know what I mean? I'm 25 years old, and I've had some pretty mildly successful businesses, but who knows what business I'm going to start when I'm 40 after 30 years of XYZ under my belt. That's when things get really serious, so it's so awesome that like you've been you've done things the right way, not just from day one of Ember, but for over a decade now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And now you're reaping what you've sowed off of it, and you have not only clients you're helping, but coaches you're helping, have their own clients. Like, that's insane. Like, I remember the day you hired your first coach, and now you have multiple people. You have a social media, and you have a mentor, and all this stuff, and like just doing it the right way. And that's why I like, you know what I mean? That's why I consider you, part of my circle, which is a very tight, small circle. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to you. Shout out to Ember. Do you have anything you want to say to like any of like your coaches and clients that are like directly involved, with Ember? Because I know pretty much all of them are going to be watching this.
Yeah. I mean, I say this to them every single time I get on Zoom, every single time I have a coaching call with any of them. Like, I lead with so much gratitude, and I sit in so much gratitude. Like, I can't express enough how grateful and how thankful I am that not only our clients, but our coaches that, have chosen to work with Ember and like stand alongside me on this journey and that trust me with their health and wellness. Like, I do not take that lightly, and I've never taken that lightly. Like, even before I made this a career, like, it's such an honor to have people look up to me for advice or as a mentor or as a coach, and that they trust me. And it's such a privilege to be surrounded with such incredible women that want to grow the same way that I want to grow. And that's why I have the coaches working for me that I do, Alex, Danny, Jordan. They are a walking embodiment of full passion towards helping other women too. I can teach anybody how to track macros, how to write a meal plan, how to do a client check-in or whatever. You cannot teach passion. You cannot teach the love for the game. You cannot teach the love for sitting with the client when they're spiraling and maybe dealing with some potential headaches, which we all do, right? I'm a headache to my coach sometimes. It's like, you can't teach the patience, and you can't teach the vulnerability and the transparency and the empathy, right? So I'm so proud to have these women on my team representing Ember, representing me, guiding our girls, and just the community in general too. I think that's another thing that is what makes Ember different from so many other coaching companies, and even the company that I was affiliated with for 8 years. We did not have a community list. We did not have these women that show up for each other in person, online. I mean, we had our first Ember retreat here in Austin, Texas, and we had 8 girls fly out, which was like so
Awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
Just like people from all over the country, just like supporting each other, like being minded, and I don't know, it's just a really special thing that we've got here, and I'm just grateful. That's all I can say is just gratitude.
That's awesome. I'm excited to, keep watching Ember grow. Like, the waves it's, made in the last year is insane. So, as you continue to catch the momentum and, stack, more experience, doing your own thing, going forward, like, you never know where this thing is gonna, end up or, rise to over time, right? So
Yeah.
it's just, so awesome. Well, that brings us to nearly the end here. So, wanted to now let everybody know, because this is basically our first official release of this, is we are going to be doing a Discipline Over Motivation and Ember collab drop number 3. So we did the Coach Rachel T, and then we've done 2 Ember and Dom collabs. Now we're going to be going with the 4th collab we've ever done to celebrate 1 year of Ember and 2 years of Discipline Over Motivation, which completely happened by accident. But I said, you know what? There's nobody else I'd rather kind of share the stage with a little bit for that day. You know what I mean? So, I wanted to, get on here with you and tell, your audience and the Discipline Over Motivation audience what this next drop is going to look like. And, really just reassure everybody that we've taken all feedback from, previous drops together and have really just tried to fix any small problem we've ever had with, quality and longevity. And, there's been times throughout the process where it was really, Rachel and I trying to serve the audience the best of, trying to not cut costs, but make things as cheap as possible for, everybody, because everybody's always investing in something, right? So like when, you invest in us, we want to make sure that you are getting the best bang for your buck possible. And we've experienced with the high end of that and the low end of that. And, through Rachel and I sampling a lot together and having a lot of, upfront and honest conversations with each other, where I think I'm bringing her the next big idea and then she shoots it down and I'm like, damn, starting from the ground again. But that type of mindset and knowing what you want and doing things the right way is why Ember is where it's at. It's why we're discipline over motivation is where it's at, and why, where we're at as individuals, and, not settling for less and doing things, the best way we can. So with this new drop coming out, we have noticed from the Ember community that two of the most desirable products we've ever done is one, Crewnecks with each other, and t-shirts and some dad hats here and there as well. So that's going to be the three items that we're going to be dropping soon on August 25th with you guys. And the clothing, the Crewnecks and the t-shirts for the Ember side of the drop is going to be nothing but comfort colors. And we're really excited to announce that for you guys, because we know that the Comfort Colors name and what they've created for themselves is so perfect, because it is the most comfortable stuff out there. It's some of the only clothing that you can wash 1,000 times and still want to wear it as soon as it comes out of your dryer. And, it was heavily requested by, the Ember audience and by Rachel herself to go with comfort. So we've handpicked a couple Crewnecks and a couple t-shirts, and then we're going to be running it back with the hat that Rachel is wearing right now, actually. So everything is going to be Ember colors. We're going to have a few different tones for you guys, and the designs and that full catalog is going to be released very soon. But we're excited to come at you guys with, the combination of the best price point, best quality, best longevity, and sickest, most aesthetic designs we've ever done to date. And we're really pouring everything we got into this. Heck, we're even doing a 2-hour podcast to let you guys know. So that's pretty much about it for this episode. I hope all you guys that have, watched and listened throughout the end now, it might take you a couple cardio sessions to get through this one, but man, it was worth it. We spilled some tea. We might even be able to get this one on Netflix. So it was an awesome, yeah. There's a lot to go over, a lot of passion in this one, and a lot of, behind the scenes, and maybe some stuff that people didn't know from the outside that maybe they think they did. Even I learned a few new things through this conversation, and I've talked to you about this stuff 100 times now, it feels like, you know what I mean? So shout out to our mutual friend for connecting us. Shout out to Matt for being a grinder and squeezing his way into my life, and now here we are. So, shout out to all those people that made, that put us in the same room, and really appreciate your time doing this podcast. I know you're a busy girl, so to carve a couple hours out of your day in the middle of the week, I know is something, that I really, appreciate and have a lot of respect for. So gonna, put this episode out for the world to see.
No, I think this is great. This is a really deep dive. I don't even think I've shared this
I don't
many
think so
details.
either. Yeah.
So thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity to share my backstory and what Ember means to me. And happy almost anniversary for Discipline Over Motivation and for Ember, which is so cool that August 25th. Hello, same day.
And
Great.
guys, we did not know that until like a few days ago. I was like, hey, that date sounds really familiar, and then it hit me, and pretty insane.
Yeah,
I remembered our first anniversary like months ahead of time, but to be honest, time flies. I was like, oh crap! Like, thank gosh we're doing something,
Yeah.
So
Crazy. Well, thank you
anyways,
both.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, it is Tuesday, August 11th, 2026. So now we'll know when we look back at this, throughout the years. So again, thank you very much, Rachel. This has been Discipline Over Motivation podcast episode number 2, our first podcast with a host, and looking forward to collaborating with more, special people out there, special brands out there in the future. So again, this is Rachel Clark with EMBR Coaching. So make sure you guys check her out. All of her socials to her personal pages as well as her business will be linked below. If you're a female and you even coach males, and I know this because I
Yes.
have had Rachel write me meal plans before and they never disappointed, and she's very speaking the truth when she says she listens to what you want to do, your goals, and helps you achieve exactly that by dissecting the root cause and then executing. So you guys will be able to find all of her information in the links below, and I highly recommend opening that conversation with her if you think something like anything you heard in this podcast is something that would resonate with you and something that you might be looking for in your life as well. So that is episode number 2. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Yeah, thank you.